been a couple days since my last video, and as you can see, I'm a little more put together than last time. So I thought I'd take this opportunity to kind of share the story of how we got to last video. So, as you know, last year I was traveling for 10 months out of the year. Then I had to come back because, discovered a lump, thought it might be cancer, or at least had it examined, and the doctor's like, there's a chance it could be. My personal recommendation is that you go back to Canada as quickly as possible, get it checked out just to make sure that everything is fine. So, came home, began that whole process of having to renew my medical card, it taking forever, finding a place to stay, finding a job, all that crap, only to eventually discover, like, okay, it's cool, not cancer, you're good. And now, fast forward to what, 5 months later, I think, at this point? And, this whole thing happens. So basically, what happened is end of 2022, start of 2023, for a couple months I was working in renovation, and start of the year we began demolishing a bathroom. And when you demolish, there's a bunch of dust and stuff like that. So I would wear a mask, but you can't wear the mask all day because it just becomes hard to breathe and it just sucks working in a mask for extended periods of time. So whenever the dust would settle, we'd just remove the masks and work without masks. And unfortunately, there's still dust in the air, so eventually you start to cough a bit. And I started coughing, and I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. It's fine. It's the dust. It'll pass in a couple days, and it didn't. I'm like, okay, it'll pass in a week, and it didn't. I'm like, okay, it'll pass in a couple of weeks. Like sometimes, it takes your body a while to heal. Couple months later, still not fixed. I'm like, okay, that's definitely not a good sign. Like, I've never had chronic cough in the past. I've never smoked. I've never done anything that would explain this. So I'm like, my body's always been fine in the past. I've never had to worry about that. But, you know, let's not take any risks. And the main reason that I did it was for my girlfriend because, she's far away and she worries about me and my health. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to go do the test just to make sure that everything's fine, just to reassure her. So, called my family doctor, explained the situation. She's like, you're young, you're healthy. Odds are it's nothing. If you want to be safe and to reassure your girlfriend, we can do a couple tests, or we're going to run another blood test and do some more advanced testing as well as an x-ray for the chest just to make sure that, there's no medical issue. So I did that on last Friday, yeah. And on Monday, she calls me, and the first thing she says is, "Are you sitting down?" And I'm like, ah, crap. That is never a good sign coming from a doctor. And sure enough, she goes ahead and tells me, "We discovered multiple masses in your lungs." And she's like, and so I'm like, I'm a little surprised, but at the same time, I'm like, it does explain all the coughing. And the fact that I get winded going like upstairs, or I started running a bit last week, and it's just like I'm dying. It's like I feel like I'm super out of shape more than I've ever been before, and I'm like, okay, this explains it. Whatever this ends up being, at least there's a logical reason for it. But I mean, of course, it sucks. And I'm like, okay, what are the odds? What could it be? And she's like, well, I'll be honest. Um, the expert, I think it was an oncologist, he said. So it's like, she called me personally, and that by itself is usually not a good sign. And she's like, I asked her what it could be, and she's like, at this point, we don't know anything until we go in and, test everything out to know for sure. But my first three guesses would be cancer. So, the doctor tells me that, and then, kind of go over a few other things, and she hangs up the phone, and I'm kind of like in this state of, oh shit, this is real. Like, I don't know anything for sure, but it's really not looking good. It's not like last time where it's like, well, maybe, perhaps it could be. This time it's like, well, maybe, perhaps it could not be. So odds are it probably is. So yeah, Friday, x-ray. Monday, I get that news. And that's the day I recorded the video. So, I don't want to kind of go back over that, but it was very intense simply because it was that moment of anything is possible. It could be the worst case scenario, or it could be something else, which, is probably it's probably bad because even, like the two options they gave me, or they said it could be, was either cancer or an infection, some sort of, fungal infection that I probably got when I was traveling last year, if it was that option. And, not liking mushrooms, or rather hating mushrooms, somehow the thought of having mushrooms inside me just, I don't know, it grosses me out because I don't like mushrooms. But at the same time, I'm like, well, I kind of hope it is because I don't want it to be cancer. So it's kind of like this weird dilemma of, which is worse. I mean, yeah, obviously cancer is worse, but I still don't like the idea of having mushrooms inside me. So anyway, back to what I was saying. So Friday, X-ray. Monday, I get the news. Tuesday, the hospital calls me. Wednesday, I go for I go to speak to an expert, and she shows me the X-rays, and I can see the big masses and everything. And she's like, explains all the different things, asks me a bunch of questions to understand what it might be, what are the symptoms I'm experiencing, and so on and so forth. And they do another blood test, and they're going to run a bunch of tests on that. And they go give me a CT scan to make sure that there's nothing else. So they did the chest and the head just to make sure, and they didn't discover anything else. But the conclusion was, it looks like cancer. We don't know for sure until we go in and do a biopsy. But from what we've seen, this looks like cancer. So, there's still a slight chance that it could be some sort of infection that I picked up when I was traveling last year, but the odds aren't very good for that. But at this moment, I'm kind of in this in between state of I already processed, I already cried, I already kind of explored all the different options. Until it's confirmed 100%, there isn't really much for me to do. Aside from just, wait for them to call me and schedule the next appointments. By the way, they called me this morning, so I have a PET scan scheduled for Tuesday. And I'm still waiting for them to call me to schedule the biopsy. I'm hoping they'll do that today, and I'm hoping maybe it'll be tomorrow or Friday because, well, first of all, the sooner I know, the better. And second of all, I'm going to visit my sister, my niece, my brother-in-law, my mother, and my uncle this weekend. And it would be really nice to be able to give them an answer because I know that's I'm waiting to tell them because I don't know anything, and also because I'm going to see them this weekend, and it's kind of something that's big enough that I'm since I'm going to see them, I want to tell them in person. And I would like to be able to tell them definitely, yes, it is. No, it's not. Here's what it is. Either way, it's I would like to be able to do that. So I'm hoping we get the official answer this week, but I don't know. We'll see. So yeah, it's just, hey, there's the cough. I was going to say, yeah, what hit me yesterday when I was in the hospital was how weak my body has gotten. Now, I don't know if it's cancer yet. I don't know anything, but I know over the last, year and a half, let's say, I lost a lot of weight. I lost all my muscle. And, I just developed less of an appetite, whether it's linked to this or just the fact that I was traveling and I was busy or stuff like that. But it's it's gotten to the point where it's I don't know if I can trust my body anymore. In the past, my body was always super strong. I was doing intermittent fasting. I could go the entire day, not eat, not have any problem, not lack of energy, not feeling lightheaded, nothing. And now it's the complete opposite. Yesterday when I was in the hospital getting the blood test, the blood test, it's they just take 3 small vials. It's not I'm donating a pint of blood or anything. Just 3 small vials, and midway through, I feel lightheaded. I almost passed out. And then when I went a little after that, when I went for the CT scan, I was literally sitting down, waiting, and I nearly passed out again. To the point where they're normally we don't like people to eat beforehand because, the iodine injection they give you when they do the CT scan could make you nauseous and we don't want you to throw up. So normally we don't want you to eat. But, since you're about to pass out, here are a few crackers and here's some juice. And it's just I'm not used to my body being that weak. And it's I don't want to use this as an excuse. It is what it is. It's just I'm not accustomed to this, and it feels very strange to me. And that's one of the scariest things. In all this, no matter what happens, I know I'll be able to process this. I'll be able to deal with whatever comes, even if the ultimate conclusion to this is death. Obviously, I hope not. But if it is, I know I'll be able to deal with it and process that. I'll be able to get to a point where I'm like, hey, I'm gonna fight as hard as I can, but if this is what's meant to happen, I know I'll be okay with that. What's difficult for me is, first of all, what I just talked about, feeling like my body is weak and I can't depend on it. That scares me a lot. And the second thing is what I discussed in the first video is having to put my girlfriend through that. And not just my girlfriend, but my close friends, my family, like the people who are closest to me. And it's like this entire experience because like I haven't told my family yet simply because, I want to wait to know for sure. But it's like I can't go through this alone. So obviously I told my girlfriend and I told like three or four of my closest friends. And it's just like just seeing their support and they're like one of them. Like she's in Malaysia. It's like we've known each other for I think almost 3 years at this point. And it's like, we were in the mastermind together and we got really close. And it's like we're very good friends. At this point I consider her like she's my sister. And it's like she told me like, when she found out and everything, it's like she cried and I'm like, that just like makes me feel grateful. Not because I'm happy when people cry, but it's like that I made such a connection with someone, such an impact that no like for her processing the possibility of like shit I could lose this person made her cry. And it's like that experience and like my other friends who were like super supportive and encouraging and everything, it's like it's making me realize how lucky and grateful I am to have people like that in my life. It's like even though I don't have that many people who I'm really close to, it's just like my immediate family. I'd say like four friends about that I'm like really close to, they speak to regularly, that I like talk about everything with, and my girlfriend. So it's like it's not that many people, but it's like those, I don't know, 8, 10 people, like they care a lot about me. And this entire experience is making me realize like whatever this ends up being, I know it's going to be more difficult on them than it is on me simply because it's my life. I can accept whatever's going to happen. I can process that. That is not a problem. But it's just like them, they don't have control. Like I, to some degree, have control over my life. If it is cancer, I can decide not to do chemo or whatever they recommend. I have that choice. They don't. So for them, it's just like watching from the outside and they have absolutely no power, no control. And it's like, I don't want to put people through that. Yet at the same time, like I know that I can't stop them. I know they're going to want to be there for me and support me and everything. And I'm really grateful for that. So it's this entire experience, even though I don't have anything confirmed yet, it's just making me so grateful to have those people in my life. And it's just making me want to enjoy whatever amount of time I have left. Like, as an example, yesterday, it's like, when I was about to get my blood test and they were, it's one of those, like, adjustable chairs and they were like bringing it up. I was like, wee, just like, having fun, like joking around. Like, not because I want to suppress my emotions or pretend like everything is fine, simply because, like, this is happening whether I want it or not. I can be miserable, or I can enjoy the journey. I can fully embrace and enjoy every single step of it, even when it sucks. It's like, yeah, almost fainting twice yesterday sucked. And it made me like, it scared me, honestly. But I'm enjoying this journey because I believe, or at least I'm really, really, really hoping that this is not the end of the journey. It's just the beginning. Because I just realized that in the last couple of days, speaking to my friends and kind of processing everything, that my entire life I've read, books, self-help, motivational, like stuff like that. And it's like people had like horrible childhoods or like, life, like near death experiences and everything. And it's just like they came out of that struggle. They were in a situation where it's like do or die, give up, or rise up over like your struggles and everything. It's like, and they chose to rose up and they became something amazing. And it's such an inspiring story. And to me, I'm like, I want to do that. I want to have that journey. I want to be able to help people, to inspire people. And yeah, even though I did have like at this point 2 near-death experiences, that just happens quickly and you react in the moments after. You're like, holy shit, I almost died, and you have to process everything. This is different. This is me facing, contemplating, thinking about the possibility of dying. This is a completely different thing. And I'm realizing I brought this on myself because I do believe that, you attract whatever you're meant to experience in life. So, assuming this is cancer, yeah, 100%, I attracted it. This is my fault. I'm not blaming anyone else. I'm not blaming the universe. I'm not going to be a victim in this case. I am responsible for this. I fully accept that. And part of like, what I was saying before, if like I always look at those other people and their amazing stories and their struggles and everything, and I'm like, oh man, like I wish I had something like that. A situation that it's like horrible and I have to decide, do I fight and survive or do I give up and die? And it's like this is exactly the situation that I'm now facing. So it's making me realize like, oh shit, I brought this on myself. Not just like, metaphorically speaking, like literally. I wished for something like this, and bam, here it is. And I'm like, okay, I'm not sure I want this, but at the same time, this might be exactly what I need to transition to that new phase of life. Just like, this could be one of two things. It could be one, the end of my life, the end of my story, the end of everything. Or number two, my life up until this point has been preparing me. It's been the prologue, the prelude of my true story. And this experience is going to be my moment to face death and decide, do I want to fight, survive, overcome this, like do amazing things and inspire people, or do I just want to give up? And I'm really hoping it's the latter. Because, you know, I speak to people, it's like some people it's like I want to die, like I don't want to grow like live old. And for me it's like I've always like had that number in my head of like I want to live to be 100. That sounds like awesome. Like I don't know what happens after death. Maybe you get one chance, that's it. There's nothing after. It's like why wouldn't I enjoy it fully? Plus, no matter what happens, I'm still going to die. So why not make the most of it while I'm here? So I know myself, I'm not going to give up. But if it gets to the point where it's like, yeah, okay, this is it. Like, no matter how hard you fight, no matter how stubborn you are, no matter how many people are there to love you and support you and encourage you, there's nothing you can do. If it gets to that point, I'll accept it. I'm not going to be stubborn, but no fucking way I'm going to give up. And yeah, I'm really hoping this is the epic story that people will remember me for. And if not, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with whatever happens. Which is kind of weird to say when you're talking about death. But we don't know. We don't know anything for sure yet. It could just be some sort of infection. I'm going to know for sure, hopefully in a couple days when they do the biopsy. And then we'll be able to move on from there. And it's also like, I think I might have explained this in the last video. I don't remember. I was kind of like overwhelmed and processing everything. But in the last couple weeks, I've been really processing and struggling to, how do I describe this? To surrender to, like, it's like, I'm like, okay, I need an online job so I can go join my girlfriend so we can start living together and get married and begin the immigration process so we can start our life together. And it's like, I'm like, that is the goal. That's what needs to happen. But it's like the universe keeps like throwing shit in my way and I'm like, why is this happening? It's like I've been faced with this of like, I just need to kind of surrender. That's what I need to do. The ultimate surrender. That is what I need to do. It's like this situation is forcing me to do that. Not to say like surrender of like, well, if I'm going to die, I'm going to die. Like, no, I'm still going to fucking fight. But surrender to the situation. Surrender to the experience. Surrender to however much of my life I have left. And that's not really as scary as I thought it would be. Like, obviously, I don't want to die. And, I did cry, as you saw in the last video, a couple of days ago when I found out the news. But now it's just like, I'm grateful for this experience. And I know it's going to suck. I know it's going to be difficult. But I'm determined to come out on the other side of this, like a better version of myself, like the real version of myself. Like, I feel like after I go through this, whatever this ends up being, it's just going to completely transform who I am, how I live life. So yeah, that's a lot of rambling, but that's the update so far. Keep you updated whenever I have next news. So that's probably going to be once I get the biopsy. Hopefully in a couple days. If not, it'll probably be next week. So talk to you then. And of course I press the button and it doesn't stop. That's the irony. The universe is like, hey, this is my thing. It's my timeline. You don't get to dictate when this is over. Although, kind of do.